This work of Satipatthana is very excellent work. And Sayadaw said at the beginning of the retreat that this is the best method for elevating one's life. And he said repeatedly too that one has to work continuously without taking breaks, without taking time off during one's day from observation. And at 9 this morning, he saw a monk walking by without any mindfulness. And the monk also was not restraining his eyes. That means he was looking around. And so in that type of practice, if someone practices in this way, they can't possibly gain anything from the practice. And when others see it, someone behaving like that too, when they're a yogi, it doesn't look good. And others are likely to think very little of one who behaves like that when they are on retreat. So if we're doing something that is for our own benefit, that can benefit our life in such a great way, then won't we do that thing carefully and respectfully? So don't take this lightly. If we take this lightly, it's not worth it. So if one is going to behave in that type of manner, as Sayadaw saw this morning, then the practice doesn't bring benefit, and it's better not to do the practice at all. It would, in fact, the best thing would be if one is going to behave like that, the best thing would be to leave. So now 18 days are over, more than 2 weeks of the retreat. And yogis who have been practicing respectfully, for them their knowledge has gained momentum. Their practice has momentum. And for some yogis, nothing special has happened yet. And for some, it's just like that. This is something that needs to be done respectfully, with meticulous care. And if one is not able to undertake the practice in that way, then it's best to stop. So this is a place for working precisely. This is not a center where the teachers give in to the wishes of the yogis. Sayadaw has turned away from the intended topic for tonight because he saw how one yogi behaved in a manner that was not appropriate for a yogi, and thus he's talking about this. So there's a word in Pali, apamata, 4 syllables, and what this means is to always have sati, not to dwell without sati. And the opposite of this is pamada, which means losing one's sati, not having any sati, being careless. There's no arena in which carelessness is good. It's never good to be careless. And so apamada, which means not dwelling without sati, that means one always has to establish sati. This is very important. So it means not to be negligent, not to be careless, to be diligent. So this work, in this work of practice, there's no place for missing. Every second we have to try to establish observation. And if at the start we keep on working at it, when our sati gains momentum, then it's like driving a car on a really good road with no obstacles. It's very easy, and we can go along at good speed without worrying about hitting anything. But for most yogis, they haven't established this yet because negligence, carelessness is too strong. To understand what apamada means, we examine what pamada means. So in the work of making ourselves truly human, with a human heart, human mentality, and better than average human knowledge, in this work it is very important not to let pamada or carelessness, negligence occur. And it has two meanings. One is neglecting to avoid things that should be avoided, and two sides to it. And the other side is neglecting or forgetting to do things that should be done. So there are things that should be avoided in life. These are things which bring no benefit to oneself. In fact, they harm oneself, and they also bring harm to others and our environment. Those are things which should be avoided. And when we neglect or forget to avoid these things, that is negligence, that is pamada. And there are things that we should do, things that are good for ourselves, that help to create peace for ourselves, for the environment. Forgetting to do these things is also pamada, or negligence. So it has these two parts. Neglecting or being careless regarding avoiding doing what shouldn't be done, and neglecting to do, forgetting to do the things which should be done. Every person relies on food to survive, but not everything is good to eat. Some things we may be allergic to, and we shouldn't eat those. And some things are not good for anybody to eat. So we have to avoid what is not good for us as an individual, and we should also avoid those things which are not good in general. And of the things that are suitable and good for us to eat, we can't go to extremes with those. We have to eat in moderation. So when we forget to avoid eating foods that don't agree with us or that aren't good at all for us, then we bring upon ourselves a bad result. And we can't forget also to eat good food, eat what is suitable in an appropriate way. So if we forget to eat the good, healthy food, then we don't get the benefit that it will bring. So each in its own place, we have to neglect. If we neglect avoiding the foods that are bad for us, we get bad results. And if we neglect to eat the things that are good for us, then we don't get the benefit that these things bring. So every human being should understand about these two types of pamada, regardless of their religion or regardless of whether they have no religion at all. The actions of killing, torture, stealing, assaulting women, adultery, having relations with other people's partners. People who can reflect don't count these things among the good things. All these are physical misdeeds, and humans should avoid these. With regard to speech, one should say what is true, not what is false. One should speak in a kind and sweet way, not harshly. One should speak so that people become united, not so that they become enemies. One should say what is beneficial and not what is useless. So things like lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, dividing people who are unified, wasting one's time in saying things that aren't true. All these things are misdeeds regarding speech, and these should be avoided. The opposite of these things should be undertaken. And regarding the mind, wanting to harm others, wanting to put them down, these are attitudes that should not be cultivated. One should want to help others. One shouldn't one shouldn't cultivate this desire to take what belongs to others. With the understanding that actions which are good bring good results, ones which are bad bring bad results, then one chooses that path and makes one's life straight, not otherwise. Sometimes people think, oh, we die, that's it. It doesn't matter what we do. This is a mistaken idea. So all these are mental types of misdeeds. All the above are deeds that we should avoid. And in Pali, these are called ducharitas, things that are not good to do. No wise person will think these types of behaviors good. So avoiding these, the opposite of these, is sucharita, things that are well done. And every human has a responsibility not to neglect, not to forget, to avoid the bad deeds, speech, mental activity, and to undertake, not to forget to undertake, not to neglect undertaking the things which are good. Just like we should take care with the food we eat every day, taking care to avoid the things that are bad for us, taking care to make sure that we eat enough of the things that we need. Every person should have this knowledge regarding their action, speech, and mentality. As Sayadaw said just now, understanding the things which should be avoided, one should then do that practically, avoid these things in practice. And understanding what things are good to do, then one should work to bring those about. So this negligence is neglecting to avoid what should be avoided. That is one form of pamada. If we neglect or forget, if we're careless about avoiding the things which a true human being should avoid, then that constitutes pamada. What should we do? We should avoid killing. We should avoid stealing, avoid adultery. How do we avoid these? We use our sati. We avoid these with sati. So when one neglects to take care in this way, that too is pamada. So if one has the habit of avoiding every second of the time, this is how one should behave. One should develop the habit of avoiding misdeeds and always in practice always be avoiding them. There are three classes of misdeeds: physical misdeeds, verbal, and mental. These three kinds of misdeeds, or ducharitas. And if one lets one's mind go freely, then one is likely to indulge in any one of these. Every second of the time, one is likely to be transgressing in some way. And when one commits a transgression, then one harms oneself and one is failing in one's human responsibility. So one who is negligent is one who neglects to avoid physical misdeeds, who neglects to avoid speech that shouldn't be said, and lets one's mind go to indulge in these things on a mental level. The opposite of this, so that is pamada. The opposite of this is to restrain oneself, to refrain, so that one doesn't commit these misdeeds in any, whether it's physical, verbal, or mental. And this refraining from, taking care to refrain from misdeeds is apamada. So when one can avoid committing misdeeds, physical and verbal, then one is clear as far as those go. But the things around us are always captivating us. For example, if someone likes beauty, when we control ourselves regarding these misdeeds, then we are, on a physical, verbal, and mental level, we are free of the misdeeds. But there's still the potential, whenever we encounter something we like, for us to be captivated by that. And for example, if someone likes beautiful sights, then when such a person sees something beautiful, it tends to captivate them. For someone who likes sounds, pleasant sounds, beautiful sounds tend to captivate them. For someone who likes smells or fragrances, those things captivate one. Tastes, for people who like tasty things, those things captivate us. And then sense of touch. Various types of touch can captivate one who enjoys touch, especially touch between the sexes. So all these things which our mind likes capture us, they captivate us, so that we can't get free of them. And when people just let their minds go regarding these five sense objects, the mind becomes dirty, the mind becomes unclean. So letting one's mind freely enjoy the five types of sense objects is also pamada. So if we control ourselves physically and verbally so that we're, at least we are content with our own spouse or with things that are legally ours, and not touching what doesn't belong to us, that is good. But it's still not good to let one's mind go and indulge freely regarding one's own legal, the things that one can legally enjoy. So it's good to spend time trying to develop mental restraint so that one can be truly human. Letting one's mind go freely regarding desirable sense objects. Then as one comes and goes and eats and drinks, when one indulges one's mind like that, this is called paṇḍitā. This is negligence. So in life, if one is content with one's own partner, then this is good. But when we are on retreat, it's best not to let one's mind go to thoughts of one's partner at all. In meditation practice, what we are trying to do is to create the wholesome mind, the mind that is completely free of the defilements of greed, hatred, and delusion, lobha, dosa, and moha. Kusala, or wholesomeness, is described as anavajja. It's free of fault. What is free of fault is blameless, and it brings benefit. It brings good, pleasant results. So, just like one has to avoid bad food, one also has to take in the good food. So, in this work that we are doing, we are trying to create this clean mind, this highest level type of mind, to create it, to develop it, make it stronger, and make it more and more frequent. So this is the work that we do, and therefore one should work continuously at it. But when one changes one's posture quickly, when one goes from sitting to standing up quickly, when goes from standing to sitting down quickly, when one goes from one of the major postures into any of the other ones, when one makes small changes like bending, stretching one's limbs, when one does this quickly, one can't possibly apply one's mindfulness. When one looks here and there, one's attention is broken. So instead of being able to observe in all those moments, one is losing this wholesome mind. One is losing the kusala mind. So one has to develop energy, and not just one moment of energy. Because although the clean mind arises, if there's only a few occurrences of it, it won't be strong. So one has to develop its strength. And this is by making the wholesome mind occur one after another in a connected way. Just like a rope is made strong by winding many strands of fiber together. When they're wound together and one makes a rope that is 4-ply or 5-ply, then this rope can become strong. And because of the combining in a very compact way all the strands, individual strands of fiber, then the rope is quite strong. So for us in practice, we also have to, every second of the time, collect our mental energy. And in one instance of a wholesome mind, in one instance where we're developing our mental energies, one is not very strong. But when one follows another, their strength is increased. And so when the mind moments, these wholesome mind moments, one after another, follow each other without a gap, they develop amazing strength. And this is how the yogis have to work, without a gap. And this is called satajjakirya. So one has to work respectfully, not moving quickly, not changing posture quickly. This is satajjakirya. So whatever position our body is in, we must have sati, So when Sayadaw sees the yogis go to the dining hall, he sees some people looking down and some people look to the side. And so this is, in those moments, one's mindfulness is not sunken into the body. One has to, one should never let the mind become separated from one's body. One has to always have one's attention focused. So yogis need to work respectfully and meticulously, and they also need to work without taking a break. So if instead of these qualities, instead of respect, there's disrespect, instead of meticulousness, there's carelessness, instead of being continuous, one is stopping and starting all the time, then one won't develop any energy. And when there's just a few moments of wholesomeness, then these can be broken because they're very weak. So what one has to do is one has to work respectfully, meticulously and without a break, to develop wholesome Dhammas, to create them, enlarge them and make them more and more frequent. And if one works in this way, in 1 week one will see it. Very obvious difference in one's practice. One will start to see special things. In 2 weeks, this is definitely enough time. Some people can see dramatic differences in their practice in 1 week. For some people, it takes 2 weeks. But for 3 weeks, in 3 weeks, this should be plenty of time for people to see quite remarkable mental strength develop in their practice. So if one does not have anything to be happy about in one's practice after 3 weeks, that means that the yogi is not working respectfully, not working meticulously, not working without taking breaks. So to remind the yogis, this is a task, the task of making the mind clean and pure. It's very valuable work. So please take care in performing this task. So yogis who want their life to be high level, from the moment they wake up until the very moment they fall asleep, they should observe standing while standing, walking, lying down, sitting, whether bending, stretching, lifting, moving, placing, blinking, opening and closing the eyes. Every arising object that appears, one should be observing with the idea that one will not miss. One should have this in mind. One should work diligently so as not to miss anything. And if one doesn't work like this, then this is paṇḍitā, this is negligence. And one misses the object, and then unwholesomeness, akusala, comes in. So if one is not careless, but one applies oneself to trying to observe every single arising object as long as one is awake, then this is apamada, this is diligence. And this is not letting the mind go. So the Buddha distinguished between these two things, negligence and diligence, paṇḍitā and apamada. And it is not impossible to dwell like this with sati. The Buddha didn't teach anything that was impossible. when one tries again and again to apply one's observing power to the arising object, one's sati increases, one can become better and better at doing it. And one's ability to not miss the object becomes better and better. And even one finds that sometimes one tries to let one's mind go, but one can't, because the mind comes right back to the body and to the main object. So Paṇḍitā Rama loves yogis who practice respectfully, and wants to help such yogis. Yogis who don't practice respectfully, Paṇḍitā Rama does not love them. Although Paṇḍitā Rama doesn't hate them, of course, but feels sorry for them. So Sayadaw has spoken today about these two things that the Buddha taught, appamada and pamada, or not dwelling without sati and dwelling in negligence, so that yogis can accept respectfully and apply this practice according to what the Buddha taught, this method for becoming a true human being, for developing a human heart and mind, for developing better than average human knowledge. So this is why Sayadaw has talked about this today, and he urges everybody to understand clearly about what it means to be dwelling with sati, to have appamada, and what is pamada, and to practice diligently. That's all for today. Sadhu, sadhu.